Okay. So just as a bit of general Zoom housekeeping then, please can you mute your mic if you are not speaking? And if you want to react as well, you can use the thumbs up function or put a plus in the chat box to demonstrate agreement. And if you have any questions as well for Sarah, please put them in the chat box. There'll be allocated time for Sarah to answer them at the end. So it would be really good for you to put the questions in there. And as I've just said as well, the session will be recorded, so you can have access to that as well after. So hello, welcome everybody. My name is Khadija and I'll be facilitating this today. I'm a project manager with SOS-UK and I am based in Nottingham and really excited to be talking to you all today. So to give an introduction to SOS-UK, this is Students Organised for Sustainability, and we are an educational charity which was launched in 2019 in response to the climate emergency and the ecological crisis by staff and students at NUS, which is the National Union of Students. So SOS-UK were founded by NUS in order to go further and faster with transformational sustainability work. So being small and nimble actually enables us to do this really well. So SOS-UK is a part of the NUS family with 550 student union members representing over 7 million students. And as a charity, our mission is to get more students to lead on and learn about sustainability. We really believe that sustainability should be embedded throughout formal education from early years all the way up to adult learning as well. And we also endeavour to make sustainability more inclusive for everybody. So as at SOS-UK, we have many pathways into sustainability through SOS-UK for students, and we have multiple programs through which we do this. So the first that I want to talk through is Student Switch Off, which is a program that is dedicated to engaging students who are new to sustainability. So this is primarily focused on encouraging students to adopt sustainability actions within their accommodation, to reduce usage of electricity and water, and to also produce less waste as well. So we hold numerous quizzes, webinars, masterclasses for students to learn more about sustainability as well. We also have competitions with sustainable prizes for halls and individuals. So this week is our Energy Action Week, which is really exciting. So this webinar is a part of that Action Week, but why not take part in our energy saving behaviours competition so you can win a prize, and also our masterclass, which is about what to look out for when house hunting and preparing for the private rented sector as well. So our next one is Green Impact, which is a program that is dedicated to supporting environmentally and socially sustainable practice in organisations. So the program is actually fueled by students as well. So they support by becoming Green Impact Project Assistants and also Green Impact Auditors. So on one hand, the project assistants work alongside the Green Impact teams to help them and encourage them to complete sustainable actions within their workplace. So this can be within a university setting, but it can also be in research centres, NHS trusts, and also the private sector as well. So this really gives students the chance to have experience working with a range of different stakeholders. So the auditors, on the other hand, will visit the Green Impact teams once they have actually submitted their completed actions to a specific workbook. And the auditors will ensure that all actions have been completed satisfactorily and also decide which award level to give them based on the number of points that they have received. So our auditor training is also IEMA approved as well. So that's really fitting. And I was a Green Impact auditor myself last year. And now I have a career working in educational sustainability with SOS-UK. So as you can see, there's so many different pathways that you can take into the sector. So then I also have For Good, which is a program that is dedicated to empowering students to innovate and progress all aspects of sustainability through meaningful research, projects and placements. So the aim of For Good is to connect students with organisations whilst they're still studying so that they can turn their assignments, academic assessments and dissertations into something more meaningful. So it aims to support organisations to make progress for sustainability and students to get real world experience. So students at any level of study can actually use this platform There are some really exciting opportunities open at the moment, both paid and unpaid as well. For example, the University College Union, which is UCU, are seeking a student to collaborate with them on a project highlighting the impacts of the climate crisis. So I really encourage you all to look and see if there's anything that you're interested in. So as you can see, SOS-UK have many programs, but we also have many others as well, which are principally student orientated and student led. So you can take a look at our website, follow our social media, and sign up to our newsletter for regular updates on our work and how you can get involved with that as well. So Sarah Mukherjee, who we have with us today, is the Chief Executive Officer of IEMA, which is the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment. It is a professional body for everyone who works, studies, or is interested in the environment and sustainability. So IEMA provides multiple resources, tools, knowledge, and research sharing to meet the real-world needs of its members. So they also support, encourage, and improve the confidence and performance of environmental professionals by helping them to enhance their profile and their recognition. So membership with IEMA means instant access to a range of opportunities, and one of those is the Transform magazine, which I get so excited to get every month. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to be a member as well. So the membership grades, as you can see here, range from student, affiliate, graduate, associate, practitioner, full, and then fellow. So many various environmental degrees and programs are also accredited by IEMA, which offers students a uniquely tailored insight into sustainability, management, and assessment. So that's definitely enough from me now. So I'm really pleased to hand it over to Sarah Mukherjee, who is here to talk to you today and give you advice on how to get into the sector and their journey into the sector as well. So over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Khadija, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so pleased to be here and talk about what not only an incredibly important subject, which is the climate emergency and what we can do to help, but also how you are going to weave your career to come wherever you are in your student and your learning life to make sure that you have a job that's meaningful, as well as gives you obviously all the other things that we need to have out of a job. So I think I'll start really short, because I know Zoom's a bit like it's like compressed, isn't it? It feels like 1 minute is like half an hour in the real world. So I'll be really quick about my journey and then talk a little bit about the thing you're probably more interested in, which is how you can have a journey in sustainability as well. So I started off really random way. Actually, I did a law degree to begin with, and I'll be honest, I wasn't wild about law. It was very dense. I mean, in fact, looking back, it gave me a lot of tools that were really helpful for a career pretty much in anywhere, because you could take a lot of information in, you could understand it very quickly, and you could kind of form it into an argument. And interestingly, and this is something that we do at IEMA. I'll talk a little bit about the how-to series in a minute, but one of the things that we've really noticed is that a lot of our members are science graduates, a lot of them are graduates, 80% graduates and 50% postgraduates, and they come from a scientific background where they are led by the data. And in fact, the more senior you get in an organization, or any organization, the more you've got to support that data with a story around it. And in fact, we did a webinar as part of what we call our how-to series, which are those professional skills that it's quite difficult to get increasingly now, as we're having flexible working and people aren't sitting in the office together as much. And it was about storytelling and how you tell a story for business. And it's one of the most popular ones that we've done. And we're probably going to do it again next year. But you do need to be able to get the narrative around a story. And that, I have to say, is what a law degree helped with. And, I left with a lot, like a lot of people do, left university, not quite sure what I was going to do. I did a bit of work in public affairs, and I did some various temping jobs, not quite sure. And I saw an advert for a journalism training. Now, this was the years ago, and it was a paid for journalist course for BAME students, Black, Asian, and minority ethnic students. And I thought, oh, okay, that sounds like it could, I could fit. It could fit me. And I I then applied for the course, got on the course, got a job within the BBC as a result of that, because I got a bursary from the BBC and had a 20-year career in the BBC, which led eventually to an environment kind of, you know, general reporter. Then I started doing more on rural affairs and on environment, and then became an environment correspondent. And I found increasingly that I was reporting on things that I found I knew more about than the people who were supposed to be the experts in, because I'd just been doing it for so long, and got to the stage where I actually wanted to do policy, or actually being involved in the policy side rather than just be involved in reporting on it. And so left the BBC, and I've had careers in the water industry and agriculture, and now sustainability. So it's a bit of a random winding route. I didn't kind of start off thinking, yes, that's the job I want to get, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I think for me, the takeaway is you've got to be really flexible. You've got to make sure that you know, there's always a kind of plan B, but also you take an opportunity when it comes. And we'll talk a little bit about this in a bit later when it comes to your own career choice. It might not be your best job or your ideal job, but it will get you closer to where you want to be. And I mentor a lot of people of colour now, and a lot of young women, you know, both of whom are still quite underrepresented, particularly in the environment sector. It's not a very diverse sector, I'll be honest. We are working on that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I do part of this mentoring. People say, "Oh, I don't know what to do," and I said, "Well, what's your ideal job?" And actually, most people find that really difficult to answer. I mean, not just what is it, but what does it sound like? What does it taste like? You know, what does the coffee taste like? If you close your eyes and think, well, who am I sitting with? Who are the sort of people you're sitting with? What values do they have? And how do they share your values? And it's that sort of stuff that's really important, because when you go and do a job, actually, that's the stuff that will keep you there. It's not necessarily doing a project or achieving a thing. It's the people, the location, the vibe of the company. And so as the first bit of advice, I would say, really think hard about what that is, what good looks like for you before you take any job at all. And once you've got that clear in your head, it's much easier to look at other jobs and think, does that fit? Is that appropriate? Is that the sort of job that I want to do? So if I may go on to the next slide, please. I haven't got very many slides, as I said. If you're on this webinar, you're probably concerned about the climate crisis, and you're not alone. There's some research from the University of Bath which suggests that nearly 60% of young people who were asked said they were either worried or extremely worried about the climate change. And so, like a lot of people, you'll probably be thinking about, how do I mesh a career that reflects my values over the climate crisis, but also gives me all the other things that we all want out of a career, not least money. I mean, let's be honest, you know, we need to be able to keep a roof over our heads and something in the fridge, and maybe to go out on a Friday and Saturday night. And, you know, a job needs to do that for you as well. Well, it's a good time to be thinking about jobs in sustainability, because there could be as many as 2 million new jobs, that's according to the UK government, which will be supporting the low carbon economy in future. Now, we think in IEMA that it's not just those 2 million new jobs, but there's a lot of jobs that are already essentially part of the green economy, which aren't being recognised. For example, I was talking to one of our fellows, and as you saw in the slide from Khadija a little earlier, fellows are our kind of, you know, senior members. And he's putting in an air source heat pump, and the engineer who put it in for him, he was the only person doing air source heat pumps in his college. He was an apprentice with someone who was qualified, and everybody else was working on gas-fired boilers. Well, if we're supposed to be getting rid of those in 8 years' time now, that doesn't seem like a terribly good idea in terms of the skills and training that we need. So there's a lot more out there that needs to be done, and we're working quite hard and lobbying the government quite hard on having a lot more consistency around what we mean by green jobs. Next slide, please. Brilliant, thank you. So you think, oh, what's this word cloud? I tell you why, because if you look at all the little words, those are all the different things that you can do, which have the kind of label as sustainability manager. But a career in sustainability can be pretty much anything. And I think we're encouraging our student and graduate members to think slightly more laterally about what sustainability means. You can be a doctor and work in medicine that is supporting reductions in air pollution, for example, or is looking at climate change and the effects of climate change on populations in terms of increased heat on elderly populations and that sort of thing. You can be an accountant and work in green finance. You can be an architect who has the principles of circular economy in your mind, and you work on a building that has that in mind, that is looking towards zero carbon and is maybe looking at wider spaces as a landscape architect or as somebody who works in a local authority, as open spaces that are not gendered and that reflect cultural diversity. And it wasn't until, in fact, one of our members who is working in a local authority pointed this out to me, that when you go to, I don't know, a park, or you sit down on a bench in a square, a shopping centre, that will have been at a certain height to meet a certain person's requirements. And that's usually a tall white man, because that's usually the sort of person who's designing that. And they don't quite fit all the rest of us. So if you think any of those careers can lead you eventually to a path in sustainability. I've got a link that I'll try and pop into the chat a bit later, which gives a good overview of careers. But to give you some examples, I mean, that's stretching the idea of sustainability, where sustainability can be in all professions and should be. I mean, that's one of the things that we say in IEMA. Every single sector should be considering sustainability as part of its core function. And we absolutely agree with SOS that sustainability education shouldn't be starting at undergraduate level. It should be starting at between 14 and 18, because we know from the work that we do with young students, of 14 to 18-year-old students in disadvantaged areas, which we do through Speakers for Schools, that there's a lot of interest in sustainability, but not a lot of knowledge being given, because teachers don't have that sort of information to hand. So let me give you, so that's, you can think of any career as being a sustainability career. But if you're thinking of specifically, okay, so what if I have sustainability in my job title? Well, for example, a sustainability marketeer. So that would be being a marketing officer for a business that's doing good, like a B Corporation, or has a sustainability strategy and is embracing those important internal transformations, or is an important brand that's trying to do better for the planet or for society. And that would be a job that you could do in terms of sustainable marketing and showing best practice. A sustainability analyst, just like business analysts, sustainability analysts do a similar job, but they're looking at CSR or the sustainability of organizations. A sustainability consultant, we have many of those as members of IEMA and fellows of IEMA. And that can be, I mean, a range of things. Whatever your expertise is, you can be called in as a sustainability consultant. So one of our board members is very experienced in the food space. They worked with one of the big retail supermarkets, and she now works as a consultant advising farmers and people in the food supply chain on how to be more sustainable and reduce their carbon. Chief Sustainability Officer, and that would be the person who's thinking about the strategy around CSR and making sure that it gets knitted into the whole organisation. We had a meeting with our business members, corporate members earlier today, and we were talking about the difficulty, because the CEO might get it and you might get it, but everybody else in the organisation needs to be brought along the sustainability journey. So how do we do that in a way that's meaningful and people are engaged in it and not just thinking, oh goodness, I've been told by head office I've got to do something and I'm not really very interested in it. And environmental engineer, so then you'll be designing the systems or the processes or equipment for control of water, for air, for soil quality, and advising governments or companies how to clean contaminated sites, and collaborating with other scientists and experts in different areas to address these very real environmental problems. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, your first job may not be your dream job. We've got one of our members who started off in a call center out of university, not something they particularly wanted to do, but they made the best of that opportunity, got on some internal projects, met some people, and now is a full-time environment, health, safety and quality manager. So that gives you some idea of, taking every opportunity that you can, grabbing those opportunities, as I said before, and making the most of them. And that's where we can help, because not only would you be able to talk to someone like that, as he is a IEMA graduate member, but also we have a whole load of information and support and networks to help you. We are the body for everybody involved in sustainability and environment. As we said, that should be everybody. So we have real ambitions to be the professional organisation for everybody, no matter how deep or shallow your engagement in sustainability is, whether you're just interested or whether you have it absolutely as a core function. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that we do. We have events and webinars, regional groups, and our futures group, which is our graduates and undergraduates students group, which is fantastic. I mean, I learn such a lot when I go to meetings, because there is so much passion and enthusiasm, and obviously, a really good way of understanding what there is out there is talking to other people about it as well. Lots of networking opportunities online and face-to-face, and also the ability to stay up to date. Khadija mentioned Transform, which is our bi-monthly magazine. We have 6 editions a year, and we've got some exciting plans next year to increase the online content. So we have a brilliant Transform I just can't, digital journalist, that's it, Tom, who does some amazing work with us, and they are increasing the content online. We've got some big plans as well to have some more journalism, more content, and more technical content for next year. That's another really good way of staying up to date as well, with the technical pages in Transform, but also, as I said, we hope to increase the technical content on the online service we're giving as well. And lots of documents, stuff about the Environment Act, stuff about the circular economy, so you could keep up to date. The other thing about being part of a network like IEMA is that you get to meet people who've been doing the job for a few years or decades, or are very senior in their career. And one thing we're trying to set up, and we need to get the IT right to get it done, but we're really keen on having speed dating, not in the way that you might think, but professional speed dating, to say, with once some of our senior members. So you'd get maybe a 15-minute slot to ask them how they got to where they were, and how are they going to, how could they help you with hints and tips, or could they look at your CV or whatever. So hopefully that will come next year as well. The other point which I made earlier about diversity and sustainability, the DSI, we are very aware that this is not a particularly diverse sector, and we are working very hard. We've got now 55 organisations who've joined with us to make a public and real difference in terms of breaking down those barriers, not just for people of colour, but for white working class men and women who also suffer real barriers to getting into the industry. And one of the campaigns we're trying to run at the moment is to encourage people to pay their interns. I mean, you would think that's fairly obvious, wouldn't you? But the number of organisations in the environment sector that assume that you can work for them for free, I mean, it's just simply not good enough. You can't do that. I know I was brought up on an Essex council estate. We certainly didn't have the money for me to spend endless years working for free for people, and so we shouldn't expect, especially in sustainability, that people could do that now. Next slide, please. So just a few, because I know we're almost out of time. Strong LinkedIn profile, that's really, really important. all this thing about personal branding, I know you might roll your eyes and think, really, is that what I've got to do? But it really does help to get yourself out there and get commenting on LinkedIn so people will pick it up, because people will then start getting the recruiters being interested in you and asking you whether you're interested in jobs. Take every opportunity that you can. Absolutely. Sign up for online webinars, for resources, anything that looks like it might help you with your career, because you never know who you're going to meet there, even though you might think, really, but really, it's always worth grabbing those opportunities. And just think, as I said, about how you can use the skills that you've got now and transfer them in, because I can tell you sustainability is really, 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 really important at the moment in terms of, there are so many jobs for sustainability out there, and people with sustainability skills are being headhunted. I know, it's really difficult for organizations to keep their sustainability skills in-house because everybody wants a sustainability officer. So if you do go down this path, you will find yourself immediately employable. I think that's the end of the slides, and I'm very happy to take any questions. Oh yes, there's a QR code. I didn't do that. That was Kirsty, our futures lead officer, who is amazing, and I couldn't have done that if I'd tried, frankly. So that is a QR code which hopefully takes you to the IEMA website.
Right, thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for that. So yeah, it's great to see how many different ways that you can get into the sector as well. And hopefully people are inspired by your talk and your journey as well. So I've got a few questions that I'd like to ask you from SOS-UK. The first one is, what made you make that change? I think you kind of briefly touched on it, but just us to go a bit more information on what made you change careers from journalism to sustainability.
Well, I think, yes, as you said, I touched on it slightly. It was getting to the stage where I was going to talk to, particularly to politicians and decision makers, and they just didn't have the depth of detail that I'd had, because I'd been doing it. Often politicians are only in office for 3 or 4 years maximum, and I've been doing it for nearly 20 by this point. And I thought, this is just not really getting me very far, and it's not really getting the listener very far either, because as a BBC correspondent, I couldn't say what I thought. I had to report and reflect what everybody else was thinking. Absolutely right. That's what the BBC is there for. But I was getting increasingly frustrated. So I took a job in the water industry, which was a director of environment. It has challenges, and there wasn't I wouldn't have said that necessarily everybody was on the same part of the journey that I was, and then took a job in agriculture, and finally found IEMA, which is brilliant, because I'm talking to people who are so passionate and enthusiastic. I mean, all our members are making a difference and have working in amazing areas as well. And I think, funnily enough, we did a virtual work experience with some through Speakers for Schools this year with some amazing 14 to 18-year-old students. And one of them said, I think I found my tribe when we got them all together. And, when you found your tribe. And I really do feel like that when talking to our members and the people involved in the sector.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. The next question is, how do you plan on bringing more students to the environmental sector through IEMA specifically?
So we've got big plans for this. I mean, first of all, I was really aware, I've been in the job about 18 months now, and I was really aware that when I arrived that if we start talking to students at the beginning of their journey, and this sounds really kind of self-interested as IEMA, but we know you're more likely to stay with us throughout your professional career, which is exactly what we want, because with more members we can have more of an impact both nationally and internationally. And also it is it's at the moment that the increase in the desire for sustainability skills is such that there will be people out there who will have started a degree who don't necessarily think about sustainability or have sustainability in their title, who will end up doing a sustainability job because that will be where all the jobs are. And so we have started the how-to series. So this is a 30-minute webinar, which tells you all from a industry professional or world professional in some cases, that will tell you all you need to know about a particular subject. So we've had one on media skills, we've had one on how to tell a story for business, how to polish up your CV, how to present at meetings, all these, how to do a marketing plan, all these sort of things that help graduates and students in that transition into working life. Because we all know that since the pandemic, things have changed dramatically. And so, you could have started a career, a course, especially if you're doing a 4-year course, you could have started a course thinking I'm going to be in an office from 9 to 5 and ended up coming out and thinking might never be in an office. We don't have an office at IEMA. We decided for all sorts of reasons, including carbon, it was much better not to have people driving in every day to sit for 9 to 5 in an office. And so we're very aware that students, whoever they are, need a very different set of skills from perhaps when they started their courses. And so that's the offer that we'll be going to student fairs and online events like this with, to say it's not just about, and it absolutely is about the training and the sustainability training, but it's also about all those wider skills that you need to navigate quite a difficult and complex working world these days.
Great, thank you. That leads me on nicely, to the next question, which is which skills and attributes do you believe are important for a career in the environmental sector?
I would say these are important for any career. And the first is, as I said, grab those opportunities. We've all been at times where we think, can I really be, I won't use the word I was going to say, can I be bothered to pick up the phone or join in or join that Zoom meeting? But you never, ever know who you're going to meet. And, things will not happen if you're not in the right place. I mean, there's a military saying, right place, right time. You have to be in the right place, you have to be at the right time, and you increase your chances of that by attending and participating and engaging in whatever you can that even if you think it's a bit tangential, that will be helpful, because you will always meet someone. I've never been to an event where I haven't met someone that has been, either been helpful in terms of my wider career or just a really interesting person to meet. Network. I mean, I know a lot of people find that really tough. It's not easy for all of us to just keep going out and saying, hi, I'm this, especially, in sometimes quite a toxic social media environment, but really just keep your eyes on the prize and be flexible. Think about where you want to get to eventually, and think about, this may be a lateral career, or this may be my 50% job or my 40% job, but it might get me to my 80% job, and then that will get me to my 100% job. And again, I think it's about being really clear about what you want from a career right at the beginning. I also think keep training, keep skilling yourself up. Things are moving so fast. We've had, for example, the Environment Act, which has just been brought into law. That's going to make a massive difference to all companies in the UK about how they deal with their suppliers and how they deal with their competitors as well. And unless you have that training and you're right up to date, it can be quite a stressful working environment.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Some really valuable advice there. Thank you very much for that. The next one we have is, do you believe you can have a truly sustainable professional career within a carbon intensive sector? So that could include the fast fashion industry and the oil industry.
And I think this is a really, really good question, because I know it's one that a lot of people who train very hard in sustainability end up asking themselves, and we have members who are in all of those industries and wider, ones that you might not traditionally think are sustainable. But I guess what they say, and I can see where they're coming from, is that unless you have people inside those industries, they're never going to change. And I have seen that a little bit. I did a lot of work in rural affairs when I was a journalist, and the farming community can be quite defensive, because it feels that everybody's kind of having a pop at them about eating meat and all this sort of subsidies and all these sort of things. And actually, change doesn't happen within an organization or within a sector unless people understand that change. And so and sometimes, you know, it's a difficult decision to make, because, you know, I know your friends are going to say, really, you know, you say you're in sustainability and you're working in this sector, but if you think about the change that we've made, I mean, aviation is a good example. There are lots of people I know now who are working on hydrogen, jet fuel, jet engines, who are working on electric jet engines. And I don't think, I mean, yeah, external pressure is important, absolutely. But also you need the internal pressure as well for people to realize that they need to, you know, think of another business model. And that can either come from the top, or it can come from, you know, the sustainability. And I can promise you, you will be heard much more than you would have been even 3 or 4 years ago, when it was, oh yeah, we've got a sustainability officer, but, you know, they just do the annual report. Now, and we're hearing this from all our members, CEOs and CFOs and all the other C things are, you know, asking sustainability officers, right, how are we going to do this? How are we going to make sure? Because the drive is coming from consumers and it's coming from shareholders particularly. And, you know, those are the two sets of people that managers listen to.
Really great. Thank you, Sarah.
Pleasure.
So for a last question, which is more forward-looking, future-looking, is in what way do you see the sector diversifying in the future?
Well, we would say, as I said, that we will come to a point, and it's coming to in some organizations now, where sustainability is not just the thing that you, as I said, you put on page 115 of the annual report. It's the thing that is absolutely embedded into every single bit of the business. And we are seeing organizations now that are doing that. So, you know, how many polystyrene cups are you using in the cafe, in the works cafe, or how often do you have your lights on a timer in all the offices, through to we are choosing a supplier not because they're the cheapest, but because they are the most sustainable. And actually we're taking money off our profits in order to ensure that we're using the person who we have trust in as being the most sustainable. So I think I hope we will get to a point where whoever you are and wherever you are, you will think there is a role for me as a sustainability professional. And so we're already super diverse, actually. I mean, if I think about it, we've got government departments, we've got universities, we've got construction, we've got fashion, we've got food, we've got local government, health, National Health Service bodies, got lots and lots of people who are already part of our corporate members. And you know, that's reflected in our individual members as well. So I would hope that we get even broader than we are at the moment. We should come to a point where we don't have to talk about sustainability separately, that, you know, when you're doing a business model, of course it's going to be sustainable. And we're away from that yet, but I think, you know, I think it'll happen. It's certainly happen in your lifetime. I'm a lot older than you, so maybe not in mine.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. So that's the last of the questions from us directly. So we've got quite a few questions in the chat box. We've got 15 minutes left, so I can go through, well, quite a few. So I can go through a few of these. So the first one is it very difficult for international students to find a job in the UK, as we only get 1 year student visa?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I tell you what, if you let me put my email in the inbox, and I wouldn't be able to give you the exact answer to that, but I will put you in touch with someone who will be able to help. I mean, we've obviously, as I said, we've got lots of corporate members who take on lots of students and workers. I mean, I think, and the rules have changed, I know, recently, so I wouldn't want to give you bad advice. When I last took on an employee who was from Canada, the rules are very different to what they are now, but certainly we can at least give you some information around that. But it's a very good question. I mean, you know, I suspect we will need in the future the sort of highly skilled graduates who are on this call, wherever they are in the world.
Great, thank you. The next one is, they say, thank you for the webinar. Do you think the sustainability sector is or will be in as much of demand as in Europe, in other Eastern countries?
Yes, I think inevitably, because this is worldwide. So what I'm doing, I'm just grabbing the website for our Diverse Sustainability Initiative. There we go. Pop that in as well. Yes, because this is worldwide. I mean, certainly the decisions that were made at COP covered 197 countries. I mean, obviously, you know, we all know that some of them didn't apply to the United States or China, but I think that wherever you are in the world now, there will be a need. You know, it's not all going to happen at the same time at the same pace as many countries, but if we're going to get to even to some of the commitments that people have already signed up to, there are, you know, and the thing is, that's it. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there in organizations just by reducing carbon on really kind of basic things like the amount of, you know, transport you do. Is there a way of looking at your transport systems if you're an organization to reduce the amount of miles you're doing by thinking more carefully about which products could go with which? I mean, those sort of things will be, I mean, that's when we were talking about our sustainability officers. Those are exactly the sort of things that you'd be doing as a sustainability advisor or consultant or officer, and that's going to be needed all over. I think some governments are a bit slower to wake up to this than others, but everybody's going to have to before that long, really, because we've got another COP next year that will be starting to look at the targets that countries have set themselves and ask them what they're doing about it.
Thank you, Sarah. The next question I have is, are there any sustainability job boards for graduates?
Aha, well, thank you. I didn't actually plant that question, but thank you very much, whoever asked that, because one of the things that we are looking at for next year is an IEMA careers hub, because we're very aware that we have, you know, we've talked to universities, we talked to corporate members, we talk to individual members, but we don't really join them up very well. And so the idea of this, and we've just put the job out on our website actually now, for a manager, careers hub manager. What we want to do is to help you with your journey from a professional point of view, not just the soft skills, but actually the job from 14 or 15. So that hopefully there'll be quizzes on there so you can see, you know, what sort of sustainability job you might be interested in, depending on what subjects you're studying. Some job descriptions, some embedded video from people who are already doing the job, all the way through to having a message board there, and obviously with jobs. And we already do have a IEMA jobs website on through the Transform magazine, but this will be the IEMA Careers Hub. So we'll be connecting universities who are offering courses with individuals and our corporate members and anybody else who has a job in sustainability. And of course, it will be behind our paywall, as it were. So anybody who posts a job on that site knows that they're going to get an IEMA qualified member applying. So that's hopefully this time next year that will be up and running. And so there will be somewhere, if you're an IEMA graduate or student, that you'll be able to look for those entry-level jobs, because we all know that's the most difficult thing, really, is getting that first job out of university. And it, you know, once you've got that experience, I remember, although it's a long time ago now, I remember being exactly in that situation. You know, you couldn't get experience unless you got experience. So hopefully that will help start people's careers.
Great, that sounds really good. Thank you, Sarah. The next one is, I was intrigued by the reasons you left your BBC career. However, I am interested in both journalism and sustainability. I was wondering how I could best combine the two. Thank you.
So I would say that, and I don't want to have a downer on my previous profession, but I would say it's not terribly easy to get involved in kind of old style journalism. So BBC, ITV, the papers, I mean, the newspapers, we call them newspapers, but very few people actually read them on a piece of paper anymore, because the model's not there. The newspapers used to sell print to customers and used to sell customers to advertisers. So, you know, but once people stopped reading them as regularly, then that model kind of imploded. However, I think there are lots of opportunities in new media, in new documentary making, in podcasting and that sort of thing. The trouble is, and this is the same trouble with environment and sustainability careers, you have to have money in the bank in order to do that. So, you have to, if you want to do a podcast for 6 months, who's going to pay the rent? So I do think there are opportunities out there, but I think it's one of these, you might need to do your 40% career and use your spare time to start podcasting, start YouTube videoing, start blogging and vlogging, because that will be the thing that gets attention from more traditional routes. The other way of doing it, of course, is to go on journalism training courses, which is what I did, and then hope to get a job out of that. But I'll be really honest with you, there are an awful lot of people coming out of those journalist training courses, and not everybody ends up working for mainstream media. I mean, some do. Obviously, people do get jobs, but personally, I think it's probably better to try your hand at the new media. And you've got a voice, and you've got you've got an internet. You'd be able to get an internet site, and do it that way. And maybe whilst still doing the job you're doing, or doing a job that's not necessarily your ideal job, and gathering your experience that way.
Great, thank you, Sarah.
And sorry, I was going to say this. Sorry, Khadija. There's obviously there's student newspapers, student radios, student vlogging and blogging sites, and that sort of streaming as well. So there are opportunities for getting involved, but you've got to have super sharp elbows and be really, really keen. And again, it's back to that: every opportunity has to become an opportunity for you to create content, to do an interview, to do a podcast, to do a blog or a vlog. Anywhere you go, anything you do in sustainability, in order to build up that portfolio.
Thank you.
Thanks.
My next question is, what can lawyers do in sustainability?
Lots. I mean, the whole COP, we call it the COP, it's actually Conference of the Parties. So this started just very 2-minute COP primer. This started in 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit, and the parties then signed up to the UN Declaration on Climate Change, essentially. That's where UNFCCC comes from, and all of that, of course, was illegal. That's international law, and since then, lawyers and legal services have been an incredibly important part of not only making sure that international parties agree to the same thing, they all know what they're agreeing to and they all sign up to it, but in national and international legal systems, a lot of this work is enshrined. So, for example, the Climate Change Act was the first act in the world that mandated a reduction in climate emissions, and that was within the UK. So there is a huge amount that you can do in the public sector as a public sector lawyer, but also in private law and corporate law, because, as I said, there will be an awful lot of a big change, I think, in the way that we do business as a result of the Environment Act, which again mandates the UK and UK ministers to give an account every year of how carbon is reducing, and also makes businesses think about who they're dealing with and how they're dealing with them in terms of carbon, not just cost. And so there will be an awful lot of legal activity around that. There is, in fact, a UK Environmental Law Association, UKLA, who have some really good webinars and seminars, but also some good websites about what careers you can do as an environmentally focused UK lawyer. So lots and lots that you can do there.
Great. The next question is, I am in a senior position in the construction sector. Any particular advice that can help me to move to a senior position in sustainability? It's mainly about senior positions, the question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So funnily enough, we have quite a lot of individual construction members and business members as well. And we were talking in our morning webinar today about how how resistant actually some parts of the sector are to making changes, and how complex it is as well. And I think the reason that sustainability skills are so sought after is because a lot of people don't really know what that means, or what the processes are, or the metrics that you need to use. And that's where it comes back to skills and training. So I suspect that you would find that if you got some sustainability training and got yourself that separate set of training, that sustainability projects would begin to fall in your lap if your organization knew that you were involved in this. Because back to this Environment Act, no longer can you just say, right, here's a tender, here are all the, this is what we want out of the tender. Basically, the person who gives us the lowest tender will win. It's now, yes, so how are you going to offset your carbon, and how are you going to reduce your carbon? Because obviously that has to be the first thing. And if you are using a certification scheme, is that certification scheme for offsetting reputable or not? And these are all questions that they're very easy to get wrong, and you really need to be trained appropriately in order to be able to think about those. So I would say, see what your colleagues or your the person you're reporting to thinks. But I would have thought you could make a very good case for make a very good case for getting funding for sustainability training, and B, then I think you would find that you would probably wish you hadn't asked sustainability training, because you'll be so busy. I mean, that's certainly the experience that most of our members are finding at the moment.
Great, thank you, Sarah.
Pleasure.
I have another one that says, does IEMA offer opportunities for PhD students? I'm a doctoral researcher looking at sustainable water consumption. Do you have any recommendations?
Yes, our graduate membership extends to PhD students, so we'd be delighted to have you along, and then you'd have the benefits of all the other things we talked about, the networking and having access to documents and webinars as well. We do have members, as you can imagine, who are in the water sector, and in fact the Environment Agency is one of our biggest single memberships, if you see what I mean. So we've got almost more members from the Environment Agency than any other single organisation. So yes, I think I've put my email in there. Just drop me a line and I can put you in touch with our membership team, and you could see if that's appropriate for you.
Great, thank you. I have another one that says, I am a chemistry graduate and have found it very difficult to get my foot in the door in the world of sustainability. I've enrolled on the Environmental Management Foundation course to become an associate member. Would you recommend anything else to enhance my CV? I find I lose out on job applications to work with others with work experience.
Yes, and it's back to this point about, you can't get experience unless you get experience. I would definitely raise up your and fantastic congratulations on your path to associate membership. I would definitely, once you have that, raise that up on your LinkedIn profile and make sure that all your keywords have things like sustainability in and that sort of thing as well. Again, if you want to drop me a line in, I've put my email in there, then we'll see if we can get you in touch with maybe one of our corporate members to give you a little bit of advice, if that would be helpful. Jo Watson, our new head of corporate partnerships, is brilliant, and she's that's the sort of thing she's doing at the moment. So please do drop me a line and we'll see if we can connect you with someone who could give you a bit of mentoring and a bit of specific advice given your scientific background.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So that's all the questions that we have. So that's great. So yeah, just wanted to thank you very much for coming,
Pleasure.
Sarah, as well. It's been really great to have you and talking to you and to talk about careers and sustainability. I'm sure many people have found it really useful. And yeah, so I've just got some on here. There's some really useful links for reference. So I've got IEMA, SOS-UK, Student Switch Off, Green Impact for Good as well. We've got our social media lines as well. And I definitely encourage you all to make use of Sarah's email that she's very kindly put into the chat as well, and get involved how you can as well. So yeah, it's really great to have you all here today. And thank you again, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
lovely.
Thank you all for coming as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for listening. See you soon.
Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.